All right, welcome everyone. This is the QD meeting, and today is September the 23rd. I'm here with Jean-Philippe. Maybe somebody else will join us in a bit. We have an action-packed agenda for today. Um, Jean-Philippe, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. The first topic would be about reboots. Of course, we are talking about QD here, but generic reboots versus customizable reboots. So to summarize what this is, there were a few issues in the past, or a few pull requests that were created, and they all add something about QD doesn't work for my distribution because it's not using this, or QD is not using the command I want to run, or QD is not, etc., etc. And QD is taking a quite generic approach, just using systemctl for reboot, and that might be customizable. So we can change the way we wrote this part of the code. But before we change that part of the code, I think it would be good to have a community opinion. And for that, I wanted to basically propose three options. And each of those have their pros and cons. I considered that the status quo was not one of those three options, just to start, but it's also an option, of course. The three options, the first of the three options was linked to a pull request that is changing completely the code to remove all these pods that say systemctl reboot. It doesn't bring any modifiable versions. By replacing all that code with a syscall. And so basically it would call sysreboot. Well, the system would reboot logically. The problem I see with this approach is we are basically re-implementing how a reboot should happen. And for example, it means that we cannot reboot the node directly. We need to sync the disks. We need to make sure that things are done in a certain order. That if a sync of a disk is non-responsive, we need to react. And all of these kind of things are included right now in systemd. So we would be re-implementing a part of systemd. So that's for me a very negative bit, because we are now introducing quite a bit of code that would be risky. But the positive aspect is the security. Is with this, you would be able to harden the deployment by ensuring only a certain set of permissions or capabilities are allowed for a QD daemon set. And so it would basically improve the security but increase the risks on the code, because, well, we would have to re-implement a reboot. So that was option one. I will, after the presenting the three options, give my opinion if you don't mind.
Sure.
The option two I see is about introducing a customizable command for reboot. So basically, we would imagine someone is running a Rancher OS and it needs a completely different command. We would introduce a parameter in the command line to say, hey, this is the command that needs to run. And that command would be triggered by QD. So basically, it's more refactoring the code, and that sounds an easy way to do things. So that's the pro. The negative part is the opposite of what we discussed in the first place. Is does not reduce the privileged pods attack surface. And the last bit, so that was option two. Option three is having a mixed model where we introduced two code paths and would basically have two different kinds of deployments, two different kinds of command line arguments. One to say, okay, I want to use the syscall, or I want to use a command. And this way we have some kind of flexibility for the people that want to have this or not the other. I like the, so you can figure out the pros and cons of the of that by merging the two. My opinion on this was that I would prefer the option 2 because it sounds like it's very simple to achieve, and it's progress already with what we have. It's just about having more flexibility. And if there are people that are asking for option 1, make sure that we have basically the option 3 at that point if there is a demand. I am not fond of option 1 and option naturally without having the option 2. So what I mean by that is that I would prefer ensure the backwards compatibility. I am not fond of changing the code and changing the method of the reboot like that, and leaving this new method, but not leaving a path for those that have an old method. That was my opinion. But I wanted to have I think that it's good to have the community's opinion on this topic because it's quite part of the core of QD, and changing it is it's important too that we discuss that together.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's one of the questions which have come up in multiple forms in the past months and years. Like I think there's a PR for Rancher now, but there were like a couple of others already who asked for making this more configurable. Yeah. I think what you identified there makes a lot of sense. I think it would be nice to reduce the attack surface on the one hand. On the other hand, also make it more configurable. I'm wondering if we're going to talk about testing later on, or we talked about testing in general. If it would be good to be able to test stuff like this. So let's say if we went with, here's what is the command again? The systemctl or the sys, what is it called?
Yeah, systemctl, yeah.
Yeah. So if we are able to test this method in CI and something else gets added, that we are able to test this. If we just generally make this, you just pass the command, it's going to be hard to be able to test this. I'm also wondering if, basically you just pass a command that is run under sudo. I don't know how people generally feel about this. And if it opens the doors to, I don't know if there's like a security question in there.
So I think the reason why this why the syscall happened was that first there is a seccomp operator that is on the works now in the Kubernetes upstream, and a good example could have been QD. Yeah. That is one of the. That's my understanding. And the second bit is that when I think it was Sasha that, or maybe, well, doesn't matter who. When someone checked on the on QD code and realized that there was this possible improvement, it was it was an attempt to clean up and to remove this attack surface. But the problem is that we now open a can of worms with, oh, imagine all the things that we need to do now because we need to re-implement a reboot. And to answer that question, your question about testing, we can. I think there was another topic about testing in this, but in this meeting. But a little bit of a disclaimer here. I worked a little bit on the testing, so I might have an idea. So in my opinion, the testing of this kind of feature, like a parameterized command, sounds easy. Testing a new mechanism, like using the syscall instead of a command, sounds doable. But testing the large scope of all the impacts, re-implementing a new kind of reboot is a little bit trickier. So what I mean by this is that we don't know what we don't know the environment that the people will run QD in, and we can't assume all the deployments in the world. For example, we can't know if someone has an NFS server that is mounted into the machine, and that might have an impact on the time for the sync, for the restarts, and all these kind of things. It's like it's far more complicated than the minimum test case, and I have the impression that this is more risky, while the command is doable with unit test, for example.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we have a couple of issues and PRs for this whole topic already. I'm wondering what the best way to discuss this could be.
On the PRs, maybe simply.
Yeah.
Getting tractions on the PRs. I want to highlight one thing. Is one of the PRs that I think it's the Rancher OS 1. I kind of so I helped on reviewing this PR, and doing this I realized that it would make sense to already make it or a parameter. So it's kind of is already influenced by this, and it might already have pointed towards that direction. It just only needs one last bit to clean up. But I have the impression that if we're targeting something that is real and tangible, maybe this one would be the first PRs to have a look and fine tune if necessary.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll ask around some of my colleagues to take a look at this again.
Yeah, that might be a good idea to have traction on maybe the different implementations, and so people can have a look and then we can discuss on the PRs. But at least have like this kind of two big PRs that we discuss, and then we evaluate the solution, and we close the other one and say, well, we'll need to re-implement this because first, well, it's now conflicting with something that we just merged, and second is, well, it's going to be a different approach, so we need to think about it.
Yeah. So, but your gut feeling was generally that this PR, I think it's 178, that it is basically a solution for a lot of the other issues or other PRs that came up in the past. I mean, obviously, a different solution, but
I'm checking what 178 is. I don't remember the name.
that is the Rancher OS.
I have the impression it was it was helping. It was closer to what we're doing because it already has a reboot command that is passed as an argument. It doesn't expose this reboot command as an argument to QD command line arguments, but it's a tangible thing. So, but anyone with experience of QD deep internals is welcome to review this, in my opinion. So I would start with that one indeed.
Yeah.
It's my personal opinion.
Yeah. Do you feel like we should ask people in those other PRs and issues to also take a look at 178 and potentially test it? Or we could also push up and do we have an image that people could start testing? No, it doesn't look like.
No, we don't have
Yeah,
that ready.
I could push up a test image for this as well. And then we could ask the others to test this and see if it fixes their issue, and then focus the discussion on 178.
I don't think it will though, because the Rancher OS 1 is almost the the flexibility that someone requires is. So it's not there yet. I mean, it does the Rancher bit, but it's not yet a flexible. It's not yet fully flexible. It's just a stepping stone. I have the impression.
Okay.
But it's not the perfect final solution yet. The completely different approach of the syscalls would be interesting to point those, because it would be completely conflicting. So that would be a completely different approach. So I'm not sure if it's a good idea to point to those PRs. I think that we need some reviews on each of those PRs individually.
Right. Okay. Maybe we could at least have some kind of meta issue that sort of tracks the progress, and where we can discuss like the different approaches that you lined out here. So maybe that is also something we could do.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think that it could be a good start.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Anything else you wanted to point out here on that point, or should we move to the
No,
next?
I think we're good for that topic. It's already 30 minutes in, so.
Yeah, okay. Super. Okay, the next agenda item was different branches of QD. Yes. Yes.
So, my opinion would be to not. I will skip the. I'll skip the complete explanation, because I think it's quite easy to understand with the text that is on the agenda of this meeting. My opinion would be to not provide updated Alpine images in different branches. The reason is because we're not in the. I'm not sure we are responsible for the security of the images we publish. I think it's best effort community work that we're doing here, and we're trying to do our best with the latest release, but coming back like on the previous release and having to update Alpine just because it's Alpine, it sounds very weird to me. I would trust that the users would be responsible of their own images and build their code, but that's my opinion.
Yeah. But I guess my question would be like for how many? Um, I mean, how many currently supported Kubernetes releases are there? It's probably loads, right?
You mean officially supported Kubernetes versions?
Yeah.
I don't remember. It's
I mean,
probably at least 3.
yeah, I think that would be my first question. Like, how much is there to support? And then I guess at least, I guess we would at least need like very basic smoke testing. Um, because running, I mean, having done a couple of releases now, it is quite a bit of work to, you update the kubectl and then you update the other thing and then you update Alpine and then you build the image and then you test it for multiple Kubernetes versions. It just takes a while, and doing this for like every other update, I know why people want this. It makes perfect sense. But I think until we have some automation for this, I feel it's a bit. I'm always struggling, struggling as it is
Yep.
to get PRs reviewed and everything else. Yeah, I realize that it's a shortcoming in our current story. It is.
Well, that can point us to the next point of our chat, but
Yes.
without going there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm also just about to point to a later agenda item because I'm wondering, could we tease some of this work that would need to go into QD or into the automation? Could we tease this apart and put it into small chunks so we could get some Oktoberfest people to work on this? Or is this totally out of the question? Is this just too big and too advanced?
No, I think it's doable. But for hack weeks and stuff like that, it's good that we have issues that are planned in advance and things that are properly split. So I think that it's as long as it's really understood scope, I think it's fine.
Yeah, okay. Let me just note down a couple of things we mentioned. So for now, conclusion for now, we need to understand how many case versions are currently supported. Also need basic release automation and basic smoke testing. Maybe. Okay.
Yeah, sorry for not being able to do 2 things at the same time. Thanks for typing that.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Yeah, you wanted to talk about the
Test
test
coverage.
story. Yes.
Yes, because that is kind of linked, right? So I realized that we didn't have a complete story about release automation. So it's exactly that. So I realized that I wanted to simplify it for the community. And so the first thing I did was a few months ago, I had this horrible bash script that was good enough for me. That was setting up my environment and that was testing that everything was working. So when you asked me, well, does that work for that version? I could test and I could tell you, yes, it works or not. And so that was the thing that I hacked around, and then I realized, well, why not pushing it, right? It could be used for other developers. It was ugly as hell, so we discussed it. And we discussed about the different approations.
I
And
wouldn't
I
even say that it was that it was so ugly.
it was working.
Yes.
That's
Yes. Well done.
and so I realized that we not only needed this kind of testing for developer environment, but it would be also good to have this as a part of the release process, because we could now have a way to test that release is good. And so because of the fact that the GitHub workflows were kind of an open thing, I didn't touch it yet, so I kind of learned it and I mixed the two of them together. I created a script that is lightweight, that is just testing the QD bits, and the rest is for kind, would rely on a setup of kind. Cluster would rely on, well, kind itself and a few GitHub actions. So it means that the developers would need to set up his own kind cluster with the, but the files would be in the repository, so it would make it very easy, and then run that script to do the smoke tests. I thought that this was a good approach, so I pushed that in. So there is a pull request that is opened for that. The idea is that you can now have multiple, I think I just did one patch, maybe two, one or two pull requests, sorry. And the idea would be that we extend our coverage with multiple versions, because we would have multiple tests. Yeah, so there are two, the test matrix and the smoke basic functional tests. One is based on the other. And so that would give us opportunity to test this in CI and see how that goes. And first it would be with the first pull request is targeting the only one of the release. And the second that increase the test matrix makes it a test for the multiple Kubernetes versions. This smoke test would be included into the process for releasing, but it's not enough. As you said, there are still things to build. One of the things to build is the image, making sure that it's properly done. So I didn't want to change completely the mechanism of how we do things. So I just included new things in the make file to make it more flexible and to allow anyone in a different organization to pass the variables to make, and that would generate the right things. And so it would be able, so the current make sub command is make image or something like that, but it was just stopping there. Here it goes a little bit further. And I think that's a good place for Hacktoberfest, because we can extend and make sure that the process is better. And I think that would help on the release.
For sure.
The last bit that you mentioned for that would help on the release is something that I've worked like for 30 minutes and I didn't push anything, sorry, was to remove the presence of the kubectl client.
Oh, yes.
And I've done a quick proof of concept that was working to use the kubectl Go module instead. And I could drain the node without problem with this. So I might want to either, if someone has more time than me, I can mentor someone on doing it, or alternatively, if you're ready to wait a little bit more, I could probably push that in the future, but I'm not sure when. So with all of these steps, so changing the makefile, changing kubectl, having a smoke test with different versions. Sorry.
No, so, carry on.
Just a second.
Yeah, I'm just looking down the kubectl Go module thing. I'll also put that into the notes.
Yeah, thanks. If we have all of this, I have the impression the release pipeline is going to be easier. It's going to be more, I would say, more automated. It's still not going to be an easy way, because we don't yet automate the pushing of the images and stuff like that. But I think it would reduce the burden on the release managers, which I think is just you. I think the hardest for you is to test many things, and here with the fact that you could test in parallel, it would already and test all of this kind of cluster. It would help you.
So what you said earlier was that you had worked on a proof of concept, and you might be able to mentor somebody to complete it, or
Yeah.
like what? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to complete it, to finish it, to take it away, to
Yeah.
whatever the wording you were using.
Yeah,
That
sweet.
might. Alternatively, if you have time, I can still work on that. But I just don't know when I will have time.
Yeah, maybe that's something just tying in with basically the next agenda item. If we make it easy for people to come in and, let's say, you spell out like, okay, this is my draft PR, or here's a repository, something I worked on, and then we tell people like, this is what you need to do for the next step, which is finishing, and then the next step is testing something, that we make like very small bite-sized pieces of work, and then see if somebody can take a look at those during October.
Yeah.
I
could probably push a gist or something like that, in a series of gists, so that this way people have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to make it like, I'm happy to help with this. Like, that we just get on the phone for 10-15 minutes sometime the next days, and then type this up into issues, like, because all we need to do for Oktoberfest is basically just file issues or reuse issues and tag them Oktoberfest, and that's all we need to do. File bite-sized issues and label them Oktoberfest. Super. Yeah, I think that would be lovely. Maybe we should just, in the next days, also try to get Christian and maybe David and maybe some other folks just brainstorm and file all these issues, like everything we can think of that is easy to do or would make our lives easier.
I've seen a few recent issues / support questions that were targeting Azure or Azure. I don't know how it's pronounced. So maybe improving the documentations there is interesting. Or and so I think we already have something, or I think I might have created an issue just for that purpose. But we have to double check. I can't remember. It's been a while.
Okay. Azure Docs. Okay. Super. Yeah, okay. So with regard to kubectl and draining, I think we're done. Regarding Oktoberfest, I think I'm happy too. So I'll take another action to super. All right, moving on. Review of actions from last time. Yeah, so this is officially done. I've certainly seen Jean-Philippe plowing through all the open issues and labeling.
Yeah, I did it.
Yes.
I did what I could, at least. I'm not sure I did all the issues, but somewhere to Ancient to be low-hanging fruit anymore, because it would be requiring rebasing, etc., etc. And so, yeah, I think the issues that could be low hanging fruit were targeted already.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, super. Super. Thanks a lot.
A pleasure.
Yeah, just looking through the agenda again, we came up with quite a couple of actions. So that looks good to me. Yeah, and I feel if we get some movement on some of them, that's going to help a lot. So
Particularly for you, if it's all these reviews that are about testing and improving the release pipeline, I suppose that's going to help you.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think that it would be lovely if more of this would be just very obvious and automatic, and then we can start building on top of this. Then we could do something like maintaining multiple branches, but maybe this could also be an interesting discussion for having QD more in line with the rest of Kubernetes, which I guess would make sense.
Yeah, exactly. That was the branching that I would have done. It's aligned with Kubernetes versions. I would not mean that we would need to say this version of QD is only for that version of Kubernetes. I meant that it's we are currently saying that QD version 4.0 is because we've updated to a certain Kubernetes version, and then it would make sense at that point to branch. Maybe, I don't know. So.
Yeah.
To be discussed.
Yeah. I think it would be an interesting discussion to find out in Kubernetes land, like the people who are concerned with the plumbing there, so probably SIG cluster lifecycle or somebody, if we were more closely working with them and maybe reusing some of their infrastructure or whatever. I get the feeling we should be talking to these people more. But yeah, also TBD. I agree.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's see how we can sort this out. But I think for today we covered quite a bit. Or did you have any last things you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we're good for today.
Good. Yeah, I think so too. All right. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Jean-Philippe. Thanks a lot, everyone else. I guess we'll see each other online.
See you later.
Yeah,
Have a
take
good day.
care. Bye.
Bye.